Good evening and welcome to The Probe. 2 precious lives were lost in the Ashanti regional town of Ijura this week, not to mention 2 more battling for their lives, with one of them losing a limb today. That same week also, some residents of the Upper West regional capital, Wa, were subjected to various forms of battering, so much so that some have been hospitalized and one needing surgical attention to preserve dear life. These 2 separate acts were perpetrated by military personnel, raising fresh concerns about the recurrence of brutalities by the security agencies, to which some is an affront to the country's democratic credentials. That's how they've described it. Are they not there to protect lives? Why then do they brutalize the same persons in such crude manner? Remember Techiman South shootings during election 2020? Still fresh in our minds. How about the land issues in April 2021, where the military came up forcefully against La youth over tracts of lands? And there's also the Ashaman incident that left Eric Owusu dead during an operation by security forces enforcing the president's lockdown orders. I'm sure you remember that also. You also remember As If We Weren't Human documentary put together by my colleague Jojo Kobna, just to mention a few of such cases being investigated by Shraj, among others. Tonight on The Probe, we ask, where do we draw the line when it comes to law enforcement in Ghana? Public order must be maintained by all means, but must we disregard and disrespect the rights of citizens? Your questions are ready, and so are my guests. We're live on the JoyNews channel. It's also on Joy 99.7 FM, Love 99.5 FM, together with a dozen affiliates across the 16 regions of Ghana. We're also on myjoyonline.com. DSTV is 421, GoTV 144. I am MFA Pau. Please give me a moment and let's get talking. Please stay. Welcome back to The Probe, and thanks so much for your company. My guest tonight, Dr. Hafiz Bin Salih, Upper West Regional Minister. We also have Ophelia Mensah-Hayford, Vice Chairman, Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee. Also joining us tonight is Madame Josephine Nkrumah, Chairperson, National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE. We also have Lavinia Adai-Mensah. She's the Deputy Executive Director and also Programs Director for the West Africa Network for Peace Building, ONEP. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to The Probe tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Good evening.
Okay, great. So it's a good way to start. The only gentleman amongst us tonight. Let's start with the Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Hafiz Bin Salih. He'll be joining us briefly to give us updates on what's happening since that alleged brutalities in the Upper West region town of Wa. We're grateful for your time once again, Dr. Bin Salih. So first off, we know that
my pleasure. Yeah.
There was a delegation from the military that came to your region. You've been hosting them. Let's first start off with where we are in terms of investigations. We know that there's some form that has started. What kind of briefing can you give us where we are with it?
Thank you very much. But I'm surprised you are deviating today. You always see ladies first today.
We only have to accord you that because you're the only gentleman amongst us.
Okay. Yes. There was a delegation from the military high command to Wa on the 2nd of July. That's Friday. The purpose of the visit was to call on the overlord of the Wala traditional area, as well as other stakeholders in the region, to appease them for the unfortunate behavior of some military men who misconducted themselves by visiting mayhem on innocent people of Wa. When the information got to the military high command, they decided to come to Wa so that they will meet the overlord of the Wala traditional area, so that they will be able to atone for the misbehavior of some of the soldiers stationed in Wa. Preceding that, on the 1st of July, I had to make calls to the Minister for Defense.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very remorseful about the incidents that occurred in Wa. As a result, he played a conference call where myself, the Minister for Defense, and the Chief of Army Staff, General Thomas Opong Pepra, we had a conversation. Based on our discussion, they decided to send the delegation to Wa. After that, I had to inform the overlord to also invite some key stakeholders, which he did. On Friday, the delegation came, and together with the delegation, we went to the overlord of the Wala traditional area. Although the people of Wa were not happy, but the delegation was well received at the palace of Wana. In welcoming the delegation, the Wana indicated his displeasure about the conduct of a few soldiers who misconducted themselves, and indicated that he would want a thorough investigation to be conducted. And he gave the delegation two conditions. One, that they should try and fish out the culprits and then punish them. Second, that those victims should be compensated. These were the two conditions the overlord of the Wala traditional area gave.
And I'll come in quickly at this point, Dr. Bin Salih, about how many of these officers, the army commanders say, how many of them, and whether they've been able to identify them, because we always hear that it's difficult to identify these persons, but did they give any form of assurances as to how many they are, and then whether they've been able to identify them already?
No. When the chief of army staff came, at that time, there hadn't been any form of investigation. He just came right from Accra, paid a courtesy call on me, and I led them to the overlord of the Wala traditional area. So he just told the overlord that they were going to conduct a thorough investigation and that the culprits will not be left off the hook.
Okay.
After which we went and he met the soldiers, all of them. But this morning, a 4-man delegation is in the region. They have come to investigate the case. It is made up of 2 military officers and then 2 officials from the National Investigation Bureau. So there are 4. They arrived in Wa this morning to commence investigation. I believe strongly that it is after they have finished their investigation that they will present it to the military high command for the culprits to be dealt with.
Okay. Well,
so I believe strongly that the investigation started today, but not when the delegation came to Wa on Friday. It's starting today.
Okay, let me bring in our guests briefly. You would stay with us briefly. I'm sure they have some inputs also and some questions they would want to raise as well. I'll start with you, Madam Lavinia, on this particular issue. At least we've had Ejura and then the latest also being Wa. We haven't really heard from WANEP. We've heard NCCE condemn the Ejura incident. We haven't heard them yet on the Wa incident. But really, from what you've heard so far in terms of measures that have been put in place, and there's a 4-man delegation, we're also told that Parliament has also asked the Defense and Interior Committee to go out there and investigate as well. Your views so far and everything that has happened this week?
Well, I think first and foremost is to join the many voices, also to express first condolences to all those who've been affected, but also the concerns that are out there. I think there are worrying trends that we are seeing, partly because, it's the occurrences that we've seen, a certain trend of increased use of military in security provision in civil cases. And I think that's something that we are grappling with in terms of a better understanding of what are the circumstances that lead to that. And under what framework do we we call in these military men to come in, and what are the guidances, the SOPs that guide these? And so I think we've had a number of incidents. Another part of the worry is the fact that a number of the investigations that are going on, we are still not too clear what the outcome of these investigations are or what they have led to. And so certainly it raises concerns. In terms of some of the steps that are being taken so far, I think investigations are always good. They are good for me because it helps contribute to enhancing understanding. Certainly, we can talk about what we do with the outcome of the investigations, but I think it helps to provide some critical information, additional critical information, and again, more importantly, it helps to bring some level of clarity to issues. So certainly, as far as the public is concerned, I think it would help. But more importantly, also for the victims, at least there's a sense of some attention being given. But very quickly, one gets into clouding one's optimism with past histories of how we have dealt with inquiries and what we have done with the outcomes and the reports of these inquiries. And I think that is what makes it even more concerning, that will this be once again another situation where, there will be an investigation and not much will come out of it. We choose sometimes, we prefer to be more hopeful that looking at the gravitas of the committee that has been put together, that we will have some answers in the case of Ejura. In the case of WA, I think the initial steps taken are important. These are important, just from the aesthetics of it, to see that there's quick, rapid attention being given to this. But again, the investigations, we need to see that these are thorough, these are made public for all of us to understand, and more importantly, that those that are involved are duly punished. And we're looking for the kind of punishment that really contributes to restoring confidence of the public, because ultimately, it's about trust building. Security provision is for the people, and where the people, you don't have the cooperation of the people, you cannot be successful in management of law and order. And it's therefore important that in all these, we remember the core issue of trust and confidence building, which must guide the steps, which must guide the approaches, the methodologies, and the conclusions, and what is done with the conclusions.
Okay. Madam Josephine Nkrumah, for you, Ejura, you've raised concerns about these increased brutalities by security agencies and what it makes of us, or what it says about us when it comes to our democratic, credentials and all. But with this, just when you finished talking about Ejura, there was an incident also in WA. We haven't really heard from you on that, but you've heard the minister update us that the committee has been put in place, at least a 4-member team made up of the military and, of course, the NIB investigating it. Also, Parliament has said that their committee should look into this. How hopeful are you that this time really there will be some form of punishment meted out to those who are involved in this, knowing we've seen the Emil Short Commission and what came out of it? Really, are you hopeful that something will come out of this and this will be a different situation, both Ejura and WA?
Well, thank you again, MFA. And firstly, I think, as Mrs. Adаймans has said, it's important that we see some swift action or reaction to what occurred in WA, and therefore seeing the swift action from the army inspires some hope in us. But I think if we're going to keep riding on this sense of hope, then we need to understand, or we need to see the transparency of the investigations. The investigations must indeed be made public, and we must see the stiffest of punishment meted out. And I say so because WA came on the backdrop of Ejura, and considering the backlash on the security agencies for what occurred in Ejura, one would expect that members of our security agencies or personnel of our security agencies would be more mindful of how they conduct themselves, particularly in the public space. It seems they were totally ignorant or did not care about what had occurred in Ejura and how the public was lashing out against the security agencies. And in spite of all of that, we saw, men in uniform again, more or less abusing the trust and confidence that the public should have in them. The issue of confidence or trust is of immense importance, because to ensure national security, you actually will need the cooperation of the citizenry. The military or the security agencies cannot act alone. They must necessarily act with the cooperation of the citizenry. And where we have that disconnect, I dare say that we have a situation of national insecurity on our hands. So what we've seen in WA, the first steps we've seen are good, but more importantly, we want to see that they follow through with it. We want to see that there's stiff punishment meted out to the perpetrators of this despicable act, and also that it serves as a deterrent, and also to look at the whole sense of the security agencies themselves. What kind of personnel are we recruiting into our security agencies? We've had very fine officers, and we still have very fine officers. So when you have these bad nuts conduct themselves in a manner that further erodes confidence, it really leaves a sour taste in our mouth. And we must, the security agencies must hasten to bridge the gap that has been created and quickly endear themselves to the public again.
Okay, let's see if we have Madame Ophelia Mensahe for joining us. She's also the Vice Chairman of Parliament's Interior and Defence Committee, and they have a task ahead also. Madame Ophelia, when exactly is this work beginning for you? We know that there's a committee also that has been put in place as announced by the Minister, but how exactly are you also hoping to undertake your work that has been given to you by Parliament?
Okay, MFR, let me say good evening to your cherished viewers. It's unfortunate I'm in the village, I'm in my constituency, and I'm having challenge in connecting.
We appreciate your time.
We've not slept over this issue. We've been meeting, and then we have a program of activities to embark on a form of tour to the northern region, specifically WA, and where these incidents are happening. We know, as my earlier speakers have said, the president has called for a probe into it, and we are in consultation with the stakeholders to come up with disciplinary actions against as seen in the video perpetuating this unprofessional act.
Okay, but do we know when exactly you're starting? Because we are told that you're going on the ground to WA. When exactly is that happening?
Hopefully Wednesday. We had meetings last Friday, and then, we came to our constituencies to work. And then on Tuesday, we've planned, we have a program of activities. So definitely by Wednesday, we'll be up there. So.
Okay, well, let's wrap up with the Minister. Dr. Hafiz Bin Salih made it clear that he's unable to stay long. But let's talk about the victims, those on who this acts were perpetrated on. What exactly is their state? We're told that one person had to undergo surgery, for instance. How exactly can you update us on what is happening to them?
Yes, from the information I have, 3 individuals went to the municipal hospital for medical attention. 2 of them were catered for and then discharged, while the 3rd person, Gafaru Mahama, he had a fracture on his right thigh. He was operated upon, and he's currently responding to treatment. I have visited him twice since the operation, and after that, I went to his family to commiserate with them and then to indicate to them that the military high command has indicated that they will take care of all his bills. And the other two individuals, I have been in contact with them, and they are also doing well. So 3 individuals have been to the hospital for medical attention.
Okay, but this committee, briefly, that you told us about, do they have some timelines in terms of when they are supposed to complete the investigations?
No, that has not been indicated to me. It's being carried out by the military high command. They have not indicated to me when they will cease with the investigation.
But they are concerned about the military themselves investigating acts that were perpetrated by their own members. Because in the end, we are told that when they are punishing, they would say that they've done that internally, and so nothing else can happen. What are the assurances that they are giving that this time things will be different? Well,
in my discussions with the Chief of Army Staff, he indicated to me that they're certainly going to make public their findings and then accept the maximum punishment relating to that level of misconduct by the military officers. So I am sure that they will make their affairs public to serve as deterrent to other military officers.
Okay, let's get into the first batch of questions from the audience, and then we'll take another round on this. There's a question from Lily, for instance, that I would want to take from here. It says, what has the role of the NCC been in terms of educating the citizenry to know their rights in terms of protest and demonstration, and also their rights to sue and demand compensation for excesses of security agencies? It looks like this is directed to the NCC. This is from Lily. One also from Mohammed says, is a committee of inquiry enough to deal with this issue in Ejura? Shouldn't the officers involved already be on interdiction or facing some sort of punishment before the probe is complete? That's Mohammed's question. There's one also from Lina. Are we descending into chaos as a country with the way security services handle protests and the lack of tolerance for dissent expressed through protests? That's one from Lina. Lizzie says, on Ejura, does Madam Ophelia Hayford believe the right way to resolve the issue is a committee of inquiry? An approach her minority colleagues have faulted as one that wouldn't achieve anything. That's a